Welcome everybody to Total Body Immunity presented by Dr. Carolyn Dean. Dr. Dean is a medical doctor, a natural doctor, and an author of many best-selling international books related to natural health, vitality, and well-being. First and foremost, The Magnesium Miracle, but over 101 Kindle books, many other free ebooks that she provides to her customer base through her websites, and all kinds of resources. There's no end to her knowledge, her creativity, her wisdom, and her compassion, and her willingness to do whatever is required in order to make sure that people have the most beneficial things that they could possibly use in order to preserve and protect their health. And today, this session is being recorded to you through our easy webinar event that you're all on. Thank you all for chiming in and piling in everywhere in the world. We were talking about it before we hit the record button. We have thousands of people tuned in from sea to shining sea, both hemispheres, Asia. And it's just an incredible honor to be with you all. And for those who are listening to the session after it's been recorded, we welcome you too. We want to also say that interacting in real time is very fun. Dr. Dean is here. This is live. And we do have a chat line that you can use to your advantage in terms of recording your questions. So as we present the information, if you do have questions, go ahead and record them here in the chat line and we'll get to them as we can. We will leave about 20 minutes at the end for questions and answers. Today's topic, again, total body immunity. It is in the heart of mind of many people, how to protect their immune system. And we want to be clear, though, just to protect ourselves and also you, our listeners, and those who will be listening in the future, that we are not making any claims about how to deal with the current pandemic conditions. That is not the purpose of this webinar. We know that there is no known quote unquote cure that has been authorized, or treatment. Some of them are experimental. They're all working it out. But what we're here today to talk about is how you can just take care of your immune system every day, because there are a lot of things that relate to the immune system and how wealthy and wise you get to be in order to enjoy your best possible life. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce my dear friend, Dr. Carolyn Dean. She will take over and I'll come back and join you more toward the end. And I will keep track of your questions, everybody. All right, Dr. Dean, you want to take it away?
I will take it away, Ginny. And with Chad's help, Chad's going to advance the slides. You know what we're talking about, total body immunity. Our first slide, I want to present the complex immune system. And it's something that everyone ignores. And when you see the next slide, you will know why. Go ahead, Chad. So you can see from this, it's extremely complex. It has many moving parts. It's been called an absurdly intricate network of cells and molecules that are supposed to protect us. And all of these cells and molecules require nutrient building blocks and cofactors in order to populate the body with a dozen different white blood cells and with billions of antibodies and other signaling mechanisms to mount an immune response. And in the next slide, I'm going to tell you why we ignore the immune system, because we do. It's just too complex. And it's because of antibiotics. With antibiotics, modern medicine thinks it can control the immune system. So these drugs become the universal answer to any infection or even inflammation. And the next statement actually could be a whole webinar in itself, because medicine ignores the fact that Pasteur won the battle between germs versus environment against Andre Bechamp. So for the past 150 years, it's been all about the germs instead of making your personal body environment stronger, and also making our external environment cleaner. So Pasteur, because he proposed that it was germs that were attacking us, that's where we decided we need something to attack back. And that's where the antibiotics came in and have been used ever since. Penicillin started to be used in the 1940s. But even before that, it was all about the germs. Attack, attack, attack. So we have to counterattack. And here's something else that sent shockwaves through the world of immunology. Now we know that the microbiome in the gut is responsible for 70% of immune system function. So that means we have to rethink everything. We have to support and protect the gut. And what have I been saying for decades? Antibiotics, with their dozens of side effects, and none the least is that they lead to yeast overgrowth. And from yeast overgrowth, there's 178 different toxins that cause depletion of the immune system, because the body has to deal with any foreign material, any foreign germs, any toxins that are created even within the body. So the antibiotics lead to antibiotic resistance, as well as the germs adapting to these antibiotic poisons. The next slide, I asked the important question: do viruses behave like yeast and rush in to take advantage when our immune system is weakened? As Ginny says, sure they do. Absolutely. I mean, why wouldn't they? And are there any proven curative treatments for viruses? No, there aren't. And I know this firsthand because I was working with AIDS and chronic fatigue patients in the early 1990s in Manhattan. Everyone we tested had every every bacteria, virus, and parasite that we tested them for. So we realized back there in the early 90s specifically that people with weakened immune systems will be rife with any sort of germ that wants to take hold. And I was going to do the sidebar on our Mighty Mash. Maybe I'll do that when I talk about FLORA Revive down below. Next slide. With viruses, what do we have? Apparently, according to the National Geographic, a research paper they wrote, it was just a few years ago, there are 1,031 individual viruses on Earth. No, there's much more than that. I'm sorry. That must be a typo, because there are 100 million times more individual viruses on Earth compared to all the stars in the universe. So it's quadrillions. It's 10 to the 31st power. So that 31 should be a tiny little thing above the 10 to the 31st power. Individual viruses on Earth. And 200 viruses are capable of invading human cells. The most adept are RNA viruses. Also, you may not be aware that most new infections enter the human population via the animal kingdom. That's why we've had swine flu, bird flu, or it's also called avian flu, etc. They use the vector of an animal, and then they infect humans. And I probably shouldn't even mention this. It's like a complex sidebar, but with pleomorphism in the body, this is actually where in the body microorganisms can alter their type, their morphology, their biological functions, or even reproductive modes in response to the environmental conditions in your body. And modern medicine does not know anything about pleomorphism. The next slide, I call it the perfect storm. And the questions are viruses getting more dangerous, or are we getting sicker? I think we're getting sicker. And number 2, people with inflammatory diseases, obesity, coronary artery disease, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, peripheral artery disease, asthma, COPD have increased risk. We're learning all of these things now. People on many medications have increased risk to viruses. So this we're learning from our current experience. And to the individual, the people listening to this webinar, it is a very strong wake-up call that we have to take much better care of ourselves. And this webinar is an opportunity to learn how to do this. In the natural medicine community, we're also learning that, number 4 here, people are deficient in vitamin D, vitamin C, magnesium, potassium, zinc, probiotics, and they all have an increased risk if they're deficient in these nutrients. And also people on a high sugar diet have an increased risk because sugar paralyzes white blood cells for 4 to 5 hours. Continuing on the next slide with the perfect storm, I've mentioned yeast overgrowth. Well, gliotoxins from yeast or candida overgrowth, the heavy metal aluminum, and I said some medications, but a lot of medications damage white blood cells, making them ineffective. Next, without white blood cells and antibodies, which are supposed to be mounted against germs, if we don't have enough white blood cells, if we don't have enough antibodies, what's left to fight infectious germs are the cytokine proteins, the histamines. There are several of these proteins, and what they do is cause inflammation. That inflammation is supposed to bring white blood cells to help mop things up. But if your white blood cells aren't working, then the cytokines just build up. And thus, that becomes the fatal cytokine storm that we've heard about that's really harming people, affecting their lungs, and adding to the fatalities. Also, what we've learned about viruses is the endothelial lining of blood and lymph vessels, especially in the lungs. These areas are targeted by viruses and are often part of the final cause of death. And what we know in natural medicine, however, that you're not being told is that the endothelium is supported by vitamin D, vitamin C, silver, and zinc. But if you're deficient in these, you're not going to be protected. In the next slide, I'll also mention the various immune busters. I have 13 immune busters, but I'll note what will help a person deal with them, what we've learned at RNA Reset that will help you deal with these immune busters. Stress, anxiety, and panic, take REMAG, our magnesium. Inadequate sleep, take REMAG. Yeast overgrowth, we work with PICO Silver and FLORA Revive to build up the intestinal flora, and the PICO Silver to help strengthen the immune system against yeast. Fast food, junk food, we have a wonderful protein powder called Restructure. What about GMO foods? They bring down the immune system. You have to eat organic. Organic foods are not GMO foods so far, but keep reading your labels. Immune busters, number 6, medications. Instead of medications, you can take well-absorbed building blocks to help you stay healthy, and those are the types of products we provide. And just a sidebar on magnesium deficiency symptoms, I've identified 65 different disease conditions that could very well be magnesium deficiency. And instead of being treated with saturation doses of magnesium, they're treated with medications. And then those medications cause more magnesium deficiency, and they also impair the immune system. And how that works is the liver is so busy dealing with medications, it's not working to help the immune system take care of germs and foreign material. Number 7, sunscreen. Now, what the sunscreens are doing, of course, is blocking the rays from the sun, which will give you your sunshine vitamin D. So with the use of sunscreens, so many people have become deficient in vitamin D. There are zinc sunscreens, but we've found that people on our products say that they're protected against sunburn. So that's something that you can explore. And the next slide, continuing the immune busters. Of course, with depleted nutrients, you can take all our complement formulas. For MSG, which attacks the immune system, read your labels on anything you purchase. Sodas, just plain stop them. They either have 10 teaspoons of straight sugar or high fructose corn syrup, or they have chemical sweeteners with a multitude of side effects. So just plain stop them. 11, caffeine. Well, caffeine is a diuretic that drains your minerals. So if you feel you are mineral deficient, then quit the caffeine. With smoking, just quit it. Taking our products does help people drop their addiction to cigarettes and to number 13, which is alcohol. And 13, the alcohol, it will add to your yeast overgrowth. I'm just shutting my windows. They have decided to do their lawn mowing. So adding to your yeast overgrowth is just going to put another strain on your liver, on your immune system. And another sidebar, you can get fatty liver from alcohol, and you can get a non-alcoholic fatty liver from high fructose corn syrup. And I'll go on to the next slide, which is treating the immune system. So, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the Pasteur model that depends on killing germs. Just full out attack on any germs in your body. And as you may know, I didn't say it. I could go into detail about yeast overgrowth, but when you use antibiotics, you kill off good and bad bacteria in the intestines, which leaves yeast fully capable of overriding the good bacteria. They take over in the intestines. And when there are too many yeast, then you get the toxins that further destroy the immune system. So with the Pasteur model, there are too many germs. We can't kill them all. The treatment weakens the immune system, and the germs become drug resistant. And we know that. We've known that for decades, this business of drug resistant germs, but it's never made the pharmaceutical industry or the allopathic medical industry come to any sort of alternative treatment approach. They will always look for a drug that they can patent, which will make them trillions of dollars. So we're up against that. But seriously, we have to use alternative therapies. We have alternative therapies. We use them to support the structure and function of the immune system. And that's all we can say. We can never say that alternative therapies treat, or heaven forbid, we can never say they can cure anything. But basically, we just want a person's immune system to function optimally. And where do we begin? I always start with diet and to cut back on sugar. And the next slide is very important because we're looking at how sugar paralyzes white blood cells. I mentioned that up above. And here's probably the main reason why. It's not a widely known fact, but it's crucial to how you view your immune system and how you view vitamin C or ascorbic acid. The molecule of ascorbic acid competes with glucose. And how that happens is insulin transports glucose and ascorbic acid to the cells throughout the whole body. So insulin is picking up both glucose and ascorbic acid to bring them both to the cells. And every cell in the body uses vitamin C as the primary source of electrons, donating them to glutathione, which is the most concentrated antioxidant inside your cells. So this is a chemical reaction. This is way down at the electron level. So what that means is ascorbic acid doesn't have to be food-based to do that work. And with the simple competition between vitamin C and glucose, resulting in vitamin C losing its position in the cells if there's too much circulating glucose, and nullifying its important antioxidant mechanisms. The rejected ascorbic acid just gets lost in the urine. Boom, it's gone. And in terms of sugar, people are asking on the chat, Ginny says, about fruit sugar. And I already mentioned the high fructose corn syrup. And that is what has gotten us into a lot of this non-alcoholic fatty liver, the overuse of the high fructose corn syrup. And what we began to learn about fructose was that it will escalate your triglycerides. It takes twice as much magnesium to metabolize fructose in the liver, and it puts a strain on the liver. Ergo, the non-alcoholic fatty liver. What we also know about yeast is that yeast will feed off fruit sugar. That's why if you're going on a strict yeast diet, you have to avoid fruit in the beginning, and then when you get back to fruit, you may only be able to eat a couple of pieces a day. And one other question that comes up about yeast is, what about nutritional yeast? Nutritional yeast is a food. It does not seem to cross-react with Candida albicans yeast. So, what I used to use in nutritional yeast, I never had a problem with it. But what you do with any food is you stop it for a while, take a whole bunch of it, and see if your body reacts. The next slide, I'm going into the nutrients. And these are listed here. And I'm not going to be able to say all I want to say about the following nutrients, but I've written about them extensively in a new ebook that you can freely download from drcarolyndeanlive.com. So the nutrients that we have assembled for you for your immune system are REMAG, D3K2 Reset. It's newly available for the first time today. Healthy Reset, that's our food-based vitamin C. We have another vitamin C coming out in the next 1 to 2 months. That's an ascorbic acid powder. We have PICO Silver, PICO Zinc, and FLORA Revive. And the next slide, actually, yes, it's the magnesium slide, but let me just say this first. Here's a testimonial. Here's what can happen if you use the proper nutrients. This is from a book review on Facebook. a customer wrote besides this review of my book, The Magnesium Miracle, she said, I use 3 of Dr. Dean's supplements, and I'm excited to have them available. My husband, daughter, and several of my friends have been sick recently, but I've managed to escape it. I credit it to building up my immune system with these products. I'm 73 years old and happy. So that's what we wish for you. This is what we see happening with our customers, and they're happy to report that to us. Okay, this next slide is about our REMAG. So I start with magnesium because it is responsible for 80% of known metabolic functions and 1,000 enzyme processes. So the immune system would definitely be impacted by magnesium deficiency. In the 1920s, magnesium chloride was recognized as an effective treatment for polio. And polio was a huge paralyzing virus that attacked the world. In 2014, there was a study, we learned about it at the NIH at a magnesium conference we went to last year. And the study said if you deprive mice of magnesium for 7 years, the T cells drop dramatically, and Epstein-Barr virus is activated in this magnesium depleted environment. In 2020, from our customer reports and testimonials, we found that clinically, REMAG was helping to kill off yeast and causing yeast detox reactions. And then we would put people on our yeast detox protocol, our full protocol. And in 2020, our director of research, Dr. Taylor Wallace, was so astounded at the size and absorption capabilities of REMAG that he wrote a paper about magnesium called Building Immune Resilience, a Potential Role for Magnesium Nutrition. And this was after he wrote our first groundbreaking paper, the first one of many that is marking our research efforts. And that paper is called Circulating Ionized Magnesium as a Measure of Supplement Bioavailability, Results from a Pilot Study for a Randomized Clinical Trial. And it was published in the prestigious journal called Nutrients. And I can get Chad to put that up on our website at some point. It is up on our website, but we can give you access to that if you didn't catch all the words. The next slide is about dosage of REMAG. 1 teaspoon equals 300 milligrams. I personally I'm just taking 1 to 1.5 teaspoons a day now, but I needed 4 teaspoons in the beginning of my saturation process. So the dosage can be 2 to 3 teaspoons in sea salted water, sipped through the day. And you can mix them together with Remide, Recalcia, Pico Potassium, and Pico Silver. The next slide, vitamin D. I have a history with vitamin D. Basically, I've railed against it because it requires so much magnesium in order to metabolize large doses, but we still require it because of the many ways it's become deficient in the population. The causes of deficiency: lack of sun exposure, overuse of sunscreens, lack of magnesium to metabolize. And what happened to change my mind about using more vitamin D and even making a product was in the fall of 2019, I was approached by Grassroots Health about their in-home lab testing for vitamin D, which they were correlating with health outcomes, unlike any other study that is available. There are studies on vitamin D, there are population studies, but there are no health outcome studies, ongoing health outcome studies. So we found out with the vitamin D testing that I and most of our customers are low in vitamin D. So, of course, in order to provide a safe and high quality vitamin D, I decided to make our own plant-based vitamin D3 K2 reset to stay away from sheep lanolin vitamin D and synthetic vitamin D. And at the same time, to give the undeniable message along with vitamin D that you must take REMAG for proper absorption and utilization. And that's because all 8 steps that metabolize stored vitamin D or sunshine vitamin D or vitamin D supplements, all of those require magnesium to activate the vitamin D. And the K2 is necessary. When you use vitamin D, you will attract more calcium, and you really do need the K2 along with magnesium to pull that calcium into the bones and teeth. Now, a question came in after I finished the vitamin C and yeast discussion. Someone is asking if we can use honey, or does it encourage yeast? Of course, it encourages yeast. It's sugar. It's sweet. It will encourage yeast. Yes, I would direct you to our book, Reset the Yeast Connection. That can help you understand more about yeast overgrowth. As I said earlier, I have a yeast detox protocol. There's an intense one, but there is a less intense one using PICO Silver and FLORA Revive, our probiotic. Okay, the next slide is going to be the dosage of our D3K2 reset. Each capsule, small capsules, contains 5,000 units of vitamin D and 100 micrograms of vitamin K2. You take 1 to 2 capsules per day, depending on your vitamin D blood levels. So this is where you want to do the Grassroots Health in-home test. You can click on our research button at the top of our website, rnareset.com, to obtain that testing. And what you do is aim for 40 to 60 nanograms per deciliter, and above 60 to prevent breast cancer or breast cancer recurrence and prevent prostate cancer. These levels have been scientifically determined by the Grassroots Health team of researchers. I mean, there's a lot to be said here. You can read more about it in my Total Body Immunity ebook at drcarolyndeanlive.com. But just to say, in my case, I had been taking a low potency vitamin D. I'd been taking everything else. My magnesium levels are, high normal, but my vitamin D was 19. So I want my vitamin D to be more clinically preventive and therapeutic. So that's why I'm encouraging people to get the blood test and to take a good quality D3K2 reset. In the next slide, vitamin C, I've talked about it, the most well-known vitamin in the world. And biochemists and doctors see ascorbic acid, as I said, as an antioxidant molecules. So they use it in high doses. And what we know about vitamin C is that mammals make their own from glucose. Remember, I talked about how they kind of are sliding together on insulin and being transported to the cells. But humans have lost that ability, humans and guinea pigs. Based on body size, vitamin C experts say humans need 10,000 milligrams per day. And the molecule that's needed is ascorbic acid to donate those electrons. Now, food-based vitamin C, it does have 8 different vitamin C complex chemicals that have many other functions. Bruising, supporting the collagen, I mean, so many functions. So that form of vitamin C comes from food and our food-based whole C reset. I recommend both. And the next slide, I do have antiviral mechanisms, disrupts the virus capsid, in high doses inhibits viral replication, increases cellular immunity, increases the antibodies, increases antiviral proteins like interferon. And the next slide is the dosage. So for the vitamin C reset, that's the ascorbic acid. It's made with a berry powder that will help flavor your mineral water to make it much more palatable. And I do keep my sea salt in that water. And the whole C reset, 500 milligrams a day for your complex vitamin C. I've got a typo there. It should be complex vitamin C. And for acute support with vitamin C, because mammals need 10,000, I go with 10,000 a day plus 1 to 2,000 milligrams of whole C reset. Now, a question came in about the K2 in vitamin D, if that affects your blood thinners. Now, there's some controversy about this. It's K1 that is the blood thinner. We're talking about K2 here. However, doctors mix it up. They think a K is a K and that's all there is, but there is a difference. But you will have to do some of your own research to assure yourself that K2 is not a blood thinner. I cannot say to you, oh, if you take a blood thinner, go ahead and take this K2. Assure yourself, assure your doctor. The next slide, we've got PICO silver, and this is such a powerful nutrient that I have written a book about it, so you can learn more at my drcarolyndeanlive.com. Click on books and download the PICO silver book. It attaches to white blood cells to seek and destroy bacteria, viruses, and fungi. It detoxifies the debris from dying organisms. It thus modifies or even curtails the Herxheimer reaction or the die-off reaction, and that can include the cytokine storm that adds to viral fatalities. It stimulates stem cell production, enhancing all tissue lines and participating in tissue regeneration, including remarkable wound healing. So this is what you want when the immune system is going through billions of white blood cells during an infection. You want to be able to produce more. This type of silver in the picometer size does not build up in tissues. It does not make you blue in color. And it enhances the intestinal microbiome. It does not kill off good bacteria. And that's been shown in, I think it's 5 out of 6 research studies. The 6th one was equivocal. The next slide, these uses are in the PICO Silver book, Clearing Up the Controversy. Used for colds and sore throats, nasal congestion, gum infection, conjunctivitis, ear infections. And the next slide, the dosage. I mean, this is where it can vary from 1 teaspoon to 6 teaspoons a day for acute infection. It's tasteless. It can be taken directly off the spoon or in the sea salted water, or mixed with juice or in a smoothie, along with your REMAG and REMITE and PICO potassium, all our other minerals. The 6 teaspoons a day for acute infection, I kind of came upon that myself. When I got home from a plane flight, the Pico Silver was there for me to test right in the beginning when we were running trials. And the morning after my flight, I woke up with a scratchy throat, and I grabbed the Pico Silver, and I took a teaspoon every couple of hours to a total of 6 teaspoons. The next day, I had no symptoms. So I realized I had a winner, because any other silver I'd taken over the years had never done that. So I was pretty happy with that. The second last product is PICO ZINC. In the next slide, it's a stabilized ion of zinc that can easily enter cells and help disrupt viral replication. Now, we know the size of our stabilized mineral ions from our REMAG study that I mentioned earlier. And we know that zinc is required in the treatment with hydroxychloroquine. Zinc requires the hydroxychloroquine as an ionophore to allow it to enter cells. However, with the picometer size of PicoZinc, it does not require an ionophore. It's like its own ionophore. So that's pretty shocking and pretty amazing to realize that. And I've listed 24 attributes of zinc in my Total Body Immunity book that you can get at drcarolyndeanlive.com. No time to go through them all here. The Pico Zinc dosage, a half teaspoon is 20 milligrams. So when you want to support the immune system, in addition to the 6 milligrams of picometer zinc in your 1.5 teaspoons of Remite. Now, this is for folks who are already on my product, so that's just for their information. So on top of the 6 milligrams of Remite, I recommend adding a quarter to a half teaspoon, 10 to 20 milligrams of PicoZinc daily. For people who are not on the Remite, take your half teaspoon of PicoZinc daily would be what I would do. I highly recommend that you take the zinc with meals, because it may cause some slight nausea if taken alone. It's the only mineral of our minerals that needs to be taken with meals. And the last product is FLORA Revive. I've talked about it several times. It's a probiotic, prebiotic antifungal that balances the gut flora, including yeast. And as I've said many times, it's one of the major underlying reasons for chronic fatigue, autoimmune disease, and total body meltdown. Let me take a sip of my sea salt water. Okay, better. So, yeast overgrowth is a major underlying reason for chronic fatigue, autoimmune disease, and total body meltdown. And that's why I created this FLORA Revive, which has an antifungal to treat this overgrowth of yeast and the 178 toxins that overwork the immune system. And the dosage in the next slide, pretty straightforward. 1 FLORA Revive twice a day. It can be taken with or without meals. It does not require refrigeration, so you can safely travel with it. As your yeast comes under control, you may take 1 FLORA Revive a day, but be prepared to increase it to 2 a day if and when you indulge in sweets and alcohol. I no longer tell people to be strict, so strict that they don't enjoy life. Personally, I'm taking 2 FLORA Revive a day so I can keep eating some fruit and some sweets. So now I'm going to turn you over to Ginny if there are any more chat questions that have come in, and then to talk about our most beautiful Total Body Immunity bundle. Take it away, Ginny.
Okay, Carolyn, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay, excellent. Okay, here's a couple questions that people have had when you were talking about the Pico Silver. A question that somebody had was, is this something that could help with an infection in my jaw or my teeth?
Personally, and we can just talk I can just talk personally. I can't make medical recommendations, but yes, we have had people who've said they've had gum infections, abscesses, boils in their gums, and have swished their mouth with the Pico Silver. When I had a root canal recently, I had the dentist syringe in some drops of Pico Silver into the base of the root canal to prevent infection. And when he took the x-ray, he said, oh, it looks like I've got a trail of calcium. They put some calcium in the bottom as well. Some calcium trailing over to a nerve. I'm afraid you're going to have pain. I'm very sorry. I said, oh, that's okay. So I held REMAG and Pico Silver together in my mouth in that area for several minutes, several times a day. I did not have one issue with that root canal. So that's the answer.
Okay. Now there's a little bit of conflict on the chat line, and I just want to make sure, Carolyn, you can get your words in. SIBO, S-I-B-O, probiotics and prebiotics. Do you suggest them for SIBO, and what about Pico Silver?
Well, SIBO is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. These folks somehow forgot about yeast. I mean, they might mention yeast as a sidebar, but they really do not put enough attention on yeast. In fact, some of the treatments for SIBO are antibiotics. So it's gotten to be very allopathic. Certainly as pre and probiotics for any intestinal disruption. And FLORA Revive has pre and probiotics and an antifungal. So in my estimation, it's going to do the best for what people consider to be SIBO. Gut dysbiosis is another name that came along. I mean, all these gut problems. And as we said, the reason why we put FLORA Revive here just for the discussion was because we wanted to make sure people addressed yeast as one of the reasons why the immune system can be brought down.
Okay, very good. There's a ongoing conversation about sea salted water that we have practically every webinar. Carolyn, can you just go over if it's okay for you to use it if you have high blood pressure or not, why you recommended sea salted water, and how much sea salt to add to your water?
Right. Well, what we know about our water supply now, and most people are using filtered water of some sort. The main water purification plants are filtering water. You're drinking bottled water. If you look at the label, often it's distilled water. We have no minerals in our water anymore. If you're filtering for hard water, no minerals in your water. So where do you get them from? Sea salt. Sea salt has about 72 different minerals. You rotate the different sea salts, make sure it's got some color to it. If it's been processed out of the minerals, it's just going to be pure white. And they all pure white is, is cleaner, refined, whatever. No, you have to have the different colored sea salts. The minerals in our water and food used to come from the mountains, and the runoff in the spring would the frozen whatever bits of ice would scrape the rocks in the riverbed, and all those scrapings would create minerals in the water. The water came to the floodplains before it went into the sea. The floodplains were where people grew their food and got their minerals. What did we do with the floodplains? We put cities there. So again, no minerals. The amount, you take your body weight in pounds, divide that in half, drink that many ounces of water a day, and in every liter put a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. People with high blood pressure, I really can't tell you what to do other than to read some information about sea salt and minerals and how minerals are necessary inside the cells to pull water out of your ankles and out of your swollen fingers. You have to have minerals to pull water into the cells where they do their work. If you are mineral deficient, you will get edema. What do doctors say about high blood pressure? Oh, you've got too much water in your blood. I mean, it's the craziest notion. And what do? They dehydrate you. And at 2% dehydration, you're having symptoms of dehydration. What did they tell you? Take this diuretic so that you'll lose water and your minerals will go out. They may say to eat a banana to get your potassium. They will never tell you to take magnesium, which is being drained out. And they'll say you can only drink 4 glasses of water today to keep your blood so dehydrated that it drops your blood pressure. This is not common sense.
Okay, very good. So let's just say a couple things. We've got a lot of Canadians visiting with us today on the chat line. Thank you, Canada. We love you. Of course, that's the birthplace of our very own precious Dr. Dean. We are in the process of negotiating with Health Canada to be able to bring our products into your great country. Until then, we are limited to being able to ship them to you through your personal use through our regular mail service. And unfortunately, because of the COVID, we're limited to what we can do with DHL and the Postal Service. We do not have economy shipping right now. I know this is a hardship. I know it's unfortunate. I wish it were different. We're doing everything we can do to get them to you as safely and quickly and affordably as possible. So we are aware of what's going on with Canada, and we are addressing it again because that is Dr. Dean's most precious homeland. So we're on top of that. And I want you to know that we're working that out diligently. One question that came up, Carolyn, about the PICO zinc, and then I do want to move on to our offer today because we're 8 minutes to the top of the hour, is how much do you recommend putting in REMAG and REMITE? If people are already taking REMITE, how much are they going to put in with their sea salted water? And are they taking it every day, or are they only taking extra PICO zinc when they have an infection?
Well, if I understand the question, you don't put your Pico Zinc in with your Remag and Remite. You're going to take it alone after a meal. And the people who are taking Remite, if you're taking a teaspoon and a half, you're getting 6 milligrams. So you may only want to take a quarter teaspoon, which is 10 milligrams. Or if you feel something is coming at you or you were exposed, then you would take the whole half teaspoon, but you take it alone.
Okay, very good. Excellent, excellent. Okay, now let me just say, Carolyn, that we've got the offer that we want to present today. I want to tell people, if your question is on the chat line and I didn't bring it up, it may be because it's too personal. Dr. Dean cannot give personal medical advice through a webinar or any other method either. So what we're talking about today with the total body immunity, there's a lot of information in here because we've talked about inflammatory conditions, we've talked about a lot of digestive conditions, and we've talked a lot about just the whole body health and vitality through the immune system. So what we're going to do is we're going to send your this webinar and the links to the slides in your email. Okay. And what we'll do is you'll have that to be able to review, and you'll be able to go back, form your questions, and then come back into support at rnareset.com and ask those more detailed questions, and our staff and Dr. Dean will respond to your specific questions. Our sea salt water recommendations and some of these things are in all the protocols. They're also in the product pages that you get. Now, Chad, if you're ready, we'd love to tell our listeners about what we have for them today in terms of the total body immunity bundle. And we're so excited about this because these are the products that you would normally be buying, but they are at a 15% discount. So you've got the REMAG, the D3K2, which is only available in the bundle right now, the PICO Zinc, the Whole C Reset, and the PICO Silver, and they're all together for you at a very low, affordable price, 15% off for this special offer for the webinar. We want you to be able to know that you can have the products on a monthly basis and you can afford them as well. And this is an extraordinary opportunity to also be able to put them on that auto ship program, because we got a great auto ship program for our website. Finally, thank you for everybody who's been patient with us while we worked it out. So you can actually just auto ship this, and now on a monthly basis you've got everything you need to protect your immune system. You've got the REMAG, again, the D3, the PICO Zinc, the Whole C, and the PICO Silver at a bundle price savings of just $128.36. So this is absolutely wonderful. And I'm so grateful for the people. I just heard a comment on our chat line. This is the first time I've heard Dr. Dean live, and I'm so excited to try her products. And so we're so grateful for Dr. Dean to be able to be here today to describe this to everybody in great detail. And one of the things we love about this is, yes, this is going to support your immunity, but it's just going to do wonderful things for your entire body. I mean, this is something, and I just want to tell a personal testimonial, and you can also see in the right-hand corner of your screen, you can click that view offer button and look at that offer. But I want to tell you that we have a business partner here in our area in North Carolina that called me with grave concern because his housekeeper had been tested positive for COVID, and he was concerned that he was going to be exposed himself, having been exposed, that he was going to test positive or possibly get sick. And also he has asthma, so he's high risk. So we sent him the immunity bundle right away. Well, it was very good news that he did not have a positive result, but what's even better is he couldn't believe how good he felt. And he said, I have suffered for 15 years with acid reflux and digestive issues, and my stomach is better than it's ever been. He was blown away at how much better he felt. And just because he was inspired to get on the products, because he was concerned about this situation that we have that's threatening everyone. Of course, this is not a cure for that. We know that. But what the point is you're just going to feel so much better anyway. So I'm excited to present this to you today. Again, you're going to get this slide. You can go to our website right now, click on the website, receive that information, receive the offer, have it shipped out to you, and be on your way to a fortified immune system and such much better health. Carolyn, do you want to add anything?
Well, I see now that I've moved over and see all the chat questions. Do you want to do a rapid fire and get some of these questions answered? We can spend another 10, 15 minutes. I don't mind.
Okay. All right. Very good. Sure. Absolutely. I'd be happy to do it. Okay. So let me ask you this. What about diverticulitis? Because that was a question that came up for a lot of people. What are you recommending in terms of that kind of issue when it comes to digestion?
Right. That can be a complex medical issue. The treatment medically is high fiber diet. We have had people who've had it, who've benefited with the inflammation part, with the REMAG, with the tissue healing of REMITE, the detox of Realign. We don't know exactly what, quote, heals it, but it seems like the full complement of our products. But I'm happy that we have PICO Silver, because it will help, along with the FLORA Revive, to balance the intestines. But it can be a medical emergency, heaven forbid, if one of the little diverticuli it explodes. And that's why fiber is important. You cannot get constipated when you have diverticulitis. And that's where REMAG comes in, because it helps the peristaltic action of the intestines.
Okay. Another question that's on the chat that is a very popular one that people are asking about is the issue about yeast overgrowth. How would you know that you had that, Carolyn? How would you
You
determine
go, yeah, you go to our book, Reset the Yeast Connection, and take the questionnaire.
that? Okay.
I've done blood tests over the years, antibody tests. The yeast questionnaire is what will give you an answer.
Okay, very good. And all of Dr. Dean's free books that you can find for these resources are at Dr. Carolyn Dean Live. That's Dr. Carolyn Dean Live, and then category books, and you'll see it at the top. And I'm going to put this here on the chat line so you've got it as a link. You can click right to it and look for that yeast overgrowth book, and then be able to take the quiz in it. What other questions did you see that you wanted to answer, Carolyn? Because now I don't know where you're at.
People are asking about REMITE. It's our multiple mineral, and what it does, it provides you with 12 picometer size minerals. And when I was researching this to make it after we put together REMAG, I realized 9 of the 12 minerals support thyroid hormone production and support thyroid function. And personally, after taking it for 6 weeks, again in the trial research period, I no longer needed my Armor thyroid 60 milligrams. And we have customers who are constantly telling us that they've been able to reduce their thyroid medication. You see, hypothyroidism is epidemic. If you've had a child, your thyroid will have been weakened by the experience, I'm afraid. And maybe we don't have enough iodine, who knows? But it's not just about iodine, it's about iodine and 8 other minerals to support your thyroid before you get to the point of needing, quote, thyroid hormone replacement. Why replace something when you can make your own?
Okay, very good. What about the questions that people are asking around bad edema, painful legs and feet, neuropathy? Do you have any suggestions for that?
Well, yeah, neuropathies can be kind of triggered by the edema, swelling in the legs and ankles. But let's start with the edema. I talked about that in terms of you need minerals to be directed into the cells, which is in the picometer size. Our minerals are fully absorbed, where we have research that's proving that. Sea salt, a lot of those 72 minerals will be absorbed into the cells, and that will draw the liquid out of your extremities. So that's the start. You can Google my name and edema and hydration and find out more words about that. But in terms of what else was there? There was the edema and
Neuropathy,
neuropathy.
swelling feet. Yeah.
So neuropathy, that can be triggered by the edema. It can irritate your nerves, but so can diabetes and pre-diabetes. So you have to get rid of that sugar, because sugar in the cells will create like a crystalline substance that irritates the nerves. Read my book, Sugar. What's the sugar book called, Ginny? Sugar.
The sugar icing book. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry, sugar without the icing. Yeah.
sugar without the icing. You have no idea what sugar is doing at the cellular level. And you really owe it to yourself to do an experiment and go off sugar for a couple of weeks and see how you feel. So sugar is killing the nerves. The sugar is killing your vitamin C that should keep your nerves happy. What's happening in the medical world is they're treating people with these terrible nerve pain with gabapentin, which turns out to be addictive. And then people come to us, what can I do to get off gabapentin? And REMAG is very helpful for the nerves, for helping to detoxify any medication. So neuropathy, REMAG oral, and REMAG lotion locally to your poor little feet.
Oh, very, very sweet. Okay. Other questions, Carolyn, that you'd like to ask or that you'd like to answer?
Whatever you see there, I mean, they're talking about bad digestion. Well, this is usually the digestion is affected by yeast overgrowth, like you said about your friend who you sent the bundle to. That didn't even have Flora Revive in it, yet the digestion was improved. The REMAG will help your hydrochloric acid in your stomach. It will help create it to help digestion. So there are many things that can affect the stomach, um, and there are many ways that our various products can help. And as Ginny said, you can get in touch with our support team if you have questions that we don't answer today, but do do the experiment, you know, both with your diet, getting off sugar, and with the various products to see how you feel. Because seriously, 99.9% and probably more people who take REMAG feel better from the taking of it. And as I mentioned, it affects 80% of known metabolic functions. You don't even know how much better you can feel when you become saturated with magnesium.
Okay, so let me say a couple things. The website is absolutely swamped. We've already sold out of Pico Silver. We have thousands of people on the webinar. Please be patient with the shipping because it just has to constantly refresh as the shipping options are coming up. We had a little technical glitch and I think we got it fixed. The Pico potassium will be back in stock in about another week. Sorry, we ran out of Flora Revive, but we will get it back in stock within the next week or so as well. And of course, you're on our mailing list. We will notify you that those things are available and in stock. So let's see what else. I just wanted to get that warning out there about the shipping and everything because the website is just swamped with people, which we're very grateful for. It's awesome, awesome, awesome. And also, here's another fun question, Carolyn, that people ask a lot of time. If you cook with that pink Himalayan salt, you have to put it in your water?
Yes. Yeah, it's not liquefied enough. In order for minerals to turn into the ionic state, they have to be in a liquid form, which separates them. Now they'll jam right back together again, so it's touch and go. That's why our minerals, being stabilized ions, are so well absorbed. Um, Someone is asking the shelf life of the products, the minerals. It's a forever time, but we do have to put the date that they were manufactured, and the FDA wants us to do a 2-year shelf life, but the minerals last forever. The capsules, we put a 2-year shelf life on them. And yeah, sorry, Ginny, that's kind of a Ginny question. Sorry, Ginny.
No, it's just a free for all. We've got so many people asking questions, and it's wonderful because we would love and want to support all of our customers as much as
Right,
possible.
right.
Yeah.
Now, someone is asking, she has everything or he has everything except the vitamin D. And right today, the vitamin D is only available in the bundle. But shortly, we will have the vitamin D alone when we get things sorted out. Correct, Ginny?
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Someone's been taking Restore, and yes, we did. We like Restore a lot, but now that we have Flora Revive, we do find it is superior because it does have the antifungal in it as well as the soil-based components.
Okay, very good. So we're 10 minutes after the webinar, and I will say there are a lot of questions about digestion, constipation, diarrhea, inflammation, gut. So I don't know, Carolyn, I'm thinking our next webinar is something to do with total body reset for digestion, eh?
You're right, right. Yes, and we are developing more and more like testimonials, you know, clinical applications, the more we use the Flora Revive. So it's quite heartening to see people getting better in their digestion because that is supremely important. Someone is asking about teeth clenching. Yes, it can be posture, but it can also be magnesium deficiency. Anything to do with muscles tightening or spasming is magnesium deficiency. You could take it orally, or you can get the REMAG lotion and apply it externally as well. So yeah, a lot of incredible questions here. Swelling of finger joints, that's taking the minerals so that the water leaves your extremities and your tissues and goes into your cells to go to work. But personally, I found when I really start taking my Realign, our food-based methylated B vitamin formula that also has a precursor to glutathione, the amino acid methionine, I found that really helped. Sort of a morning stiffness of the fingers. I mean, I was quite shocked to be getting that. But it's about the B vitamins, and it's about the natural B vitamins that we have in Realign.
Let me just go back and say one thing, Carolyn. Michael Brown has asked this question several times. Is honey going to aggravate yeast? Do you consider honey a sugar?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, yes.
Uh,
I'm sorry.
and also, I just want to say a shout out to Joe McKinsey, who's on our webinar, just ordered our bundle, and we love Joe. Love, love, love him. Thank you, Joe, so much for being with us today. He's been around just forever and ever. You remember Joe, Carolyn, from back in
Yes.
the day. Yeah, so very
Yeah.
fun. All right, so listen, here's another thing. I've been mixing the Pico zinc with my sea salt. Is that harmful? This and that. Carolyn, can you hurt yourself with our products?
Oh, heaven forbid. What you say to yourself is, I'm eating the food that I'm not getting on my dinner plate. These are foods that you're required for your metabolic processing. So that's the answer there. Here's an interesting question. I don't know if I've got it right. They're asking about globus sensation. What product is good for globus? I guess they must mean globus hystericus, which is a feeling in the throat, kind of around the vocal cords of tightness. That's a panic symptom. They put it down to anxiety, but it really is a muscle spasm in that area, and that's where magnesium is vitally important.
Very good. And if you're taking REMAG and REMITE, you've got the RDA of iodine in there, Carolyn, so you wouldn't need to add any more, right?
Heaven forbid, no. All these high dose iodine people are leading you astray, I'm afraid. The high dose iodine started out kind of as a breast cancer treatment, and then people, let's take a whole bunch of it. What that does is it revs up your thyroid in the beginning processing with the iodine, and then falls flat because it doesn't have the other 8 minerals in the right proportions in order to continue on making your hormones. So we've had a lot of people who've had problems with iodine after they've taken high dose iodine, and then realized it was a mistake for them. Yeah, it may be good for some people, but not for everyone. And what we always do is say our supplements have to be good for everyone without fail or exception.
Very good. I want to just say that we have a resource page, I think, Chad, and I want to put the resource page up if we can, so that people know where to go for what we've talked about today. All Dr. Dean's free books at drcarolyndeanlive.com. Support questions, support at rnareset.com. And that toll-free number is in all of our products. It's in all of our literature. You can call our staff up to 10 p.m. Eastern time. They'll be happy to talk to you. There's so many wonderful resources that Carolyn makes available. Our radio show, Dream Vision 7 radio station, all of that information, it will be accompanying this webinar, and you'll get a link coming to you in the email that you use to register. So we will not leave you high and dry. We're in it to win it with you 100%. We are always here. Carolyn's always available. She answers questions like this every single week on her live radio show. We have an interactive chat line. You can call in and talk with her and ask questions to your heart's desire. So we're happy to talk with you always at all times. Anything else you'd like to add, Carolyn?
Yeah, someone's asking about, other than the nausea issue, is Pico Silver just as bioavailable without food? Yeah, of course it would be. It's just that we never want people to have any side effects of any kind. So it's a warning, but you can do your own experiment, Steve, and find out if it stirs you up or not. It may be that someone with an infection or with toxicity, the zinc just goes to work so quickly that it stirs things up. But yeah, that was kind of the cute question. Yeah, I mean, obviously I could keep going. I just love answering questions, but people have their timing set aside for this webinar. It will be available for replay. As Ginny said, Chad will send out a link for the replay so you can send it off to friends and family. But I just want to thank everybody, all the thousands of people, for showing up. It's quite humbling to think that people are so interested in what we have and the words we're saying. So mahalo.
Very good. Mahalo. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. Again, support SUPPORT@RNAreset.com. Don't forget DR Carolyn Dean Live. Join us on the radio show Monday night. We'll just continue the fun. Bring everybody along with us. We'll be there at 7 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be ready to rock. And you can just join us and participate with us at that time. We love talking with all of you, and we love you and wish you the best of health and the best of wealth always and all times. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you for being a miracle. You're a miracle.
Yay. Thank you, Ginny. Thank you, Chad. Very perfect webinar. Thank you.